What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Detail Dad. On today's episode, we're going to be shedding some light on a particular part of your vehicle that, if not maintained properly, can make your vehicle less safe to drive and also increase the visual age of your vehicle. I'm talking about your headlights, of course. See, back until about 1982, all headlights were federally mandated to use what's called sealed beam technology. Sealed beams typically had the bulbs, the reflectors, and the electrical connectors all encased into one unit that was made out of glass, and anytime you needed to change those bulbs, you would actually have to change the whole headlight housing or the whole sealed beam. Fast forward 40 years, and today we use composite headlights. Using different types of composite materials have allowed awesome headlight designs that we see today. It also has allowed the lights to stay very efficient and also stay very consistent throughout their life. Sealed beams had a tendency that as they age, the intensity of the light will begin to lower until eventually the light died. There is one trade-off, however. With sealed beam technology, every time you changed out the bulb, you changed out the whole housing, so you got a brand new housing. With composite headlights, you don't have that. Whenever you're just changing out the bulb, that's what you're changing, is the bulb. The composite housing stays intact and stays where it is. So the con when it comes to that is obviously that composite headlight is constantly taking a beating from the elements. Whether it's rain, snow, salt, bugs that's hitting the front of your car, your headlights are getting annihilated, and over time, the coating that was applied at the factory begins to fail, and what you wind up with is faded and oxidized headlights that are fairly unpleasant to look at. The good thing is that situation is fairly easy to rectify, and that's what we're going to be doing here today. We're going to be restoring some headlights to almost brand new condition. So let's review our tools and let's get started.
Alright, so first and foremost, we're going to need a sanding solution to help with the wet sanding process. This is going to help to cool the headlights while we're sanding and assist in washing away the coating that's coming off during the sanding process. Next, we're going to need a 2.5-inch hook and loop adapter for my drill. For those of you who know what hook and loop is, it's a wonderful thing also called Velcro. That's a brand, however, so we're going to call it by its name, which is hook and loop. Next, we're going to need an 800 grit sanding disc and then a 3000 grit sanding disc to refine the 800 grit scratches and leave a nice finish to leave ready for polish. Lastly, we're going to be using a combination of a 3-inch dual action buffer with a cutting foam pad and Meguiar's M205 to help further refine the 3000 grit scratches and bring back the brilliance to the headlight housing. Let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so our first step is to mask off the paint and trim surrounding the headlight. This step is critical. In doing so, we eliminate the possibility of damaging the paint or surrounding areas while we're working. The extra 10 minutes you spend on this step will save you hundreds of dollars in repair costs. God forbid you make contact with the drill attachment edge and any painted surfaces. Trust me, I know from experience. I use 3M painter's tape in this application. It's easy to remove and typically does not leave behind any glue residue. Once this step is done, you can proceed with wet sanding the headlight. We'll do this by utilizing our 800 grit sanding disc and an 18-volt cordless drill. The goal here is to sand very carefully until you achieve a uniform haziness and there are no low or high spots left in the housing. This will take several passes of sanding and drying to check your work. Take your time here. The better the sanding job, the better the final result will be. Once the desired finish is achieved, they will continue by disposing of the 800 grit sanding disc and stepping up to a 3000 grit sanding disc. I'll repeat the same process, sanding, drying, and checking my work until that uniform haziness appears again. Once again, this will take several passes. The haziness from the 3000 grit will be much clearer than before. This is because the 3000 grit is further leveling, finishing, and refining and eliminating the 800 grit sanding scratches. By this time, we're getting much closer to our desired finish. Our last step is to now polish the headlight using a 3-inch dual action buffer, a foam polishing pad, and our polishing compound to bring the original clarity and brilliance back to the headlight and get it ready for its protective layer. Once again, this will take several passes and will require you to stop, check your work along the way. If any of these sanding or polishing steps are done incorrectly, you can risk damaging your $1,000 headlights, so please take your time. On this particular restoration, we'll be using both Meguiar's M205 finishing polish and a polishing compound found in Harbor Freight's headlight restoration kits. I decided to use one on each headlight to show that they work just as well as each other. By this point of the restoration, the clarity and the brilliance is being brought back to the housing, and the last thing needed will be to protect it with your coating, wax, or sealant of choice. Keep in mind that all three of these have different characteristics and will require different upkeep to maximize the housing's protection. Now we just wash, rinse, and repeat for the other headlight, and we're all done. Now we have headlights that look new and, more importantly, provide the proper amount of light to keep you and other drivers on the road safe. As always, I hope that you really enjoyed this video and it was of some value to you. If you like what you saw today, please consider subscribing and drop me a comment so that the YouTube algorithms will show me some love. Thanks once again for stopping by Detail Dad, and we'll see you next time.